What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about the market so far, what you should be watching for as we approach the next couple of hours, because we have some big data coming out later on today that could end up shaking the markets. So I want to break down what this data is, how this could affect Tesla and the overall stock market, and some very important things to be watching for as we approach today. But before I break things up, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. The offer ends in just 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So Tesla was down 1.47% during the pre-market, at least as of right now. It was looking a little bit weaker alongside the market, but there are no guarantees that we're just going to continue to crash or continue to sink just yet until we break some critical levels. Also, we have some big data coming out later on during the day, and this could cause Tesla and the market to change the directions over time. So I want to talk about this data in just a couple of minutes, but let's first talk about the news affecting the markets. So we have the 10-year Treasury yield at the highest levels in 16 years. As the yields are going up, this is once again a bearish catalyst for the markets because of the Fed's more hawkish monetary policy. Now, that's very important. On top of that, we're still starting to see some remnants of September affecting the markets as we start off October. There's been some talk about how Microsoft CEO Nadella was basically testifying in federal court on Monday, accusing its rival Google of monopolizing the online search network. There's been some new talk about these drug companies and new drug price negotiations that have been agreed upon, and this is once again continuing, which is very important for these drug companies. And that's pretty much it for the big news affecting the market so far. So we're just going to be focusing on that. But now with that out of the way, I also want to mention that we have some big data coming out today at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Okay. This is a little bit after the market opens. We have the JOLTS job openings report coming out. We have the economic optimism report, and we have the JOLTS job quits coming out. This is going to cause a big move in the markets, most likely because the job openings is not only very important, but it's going to be affecting the Fed's policies. We want this to be aligning with the forecast. We want economic optimism to be a little hot. We want the JOLTS job openings to be just as expected, if not a little bit lower. So that's what the market is wanting so far, and we're going to be watching how this affects the markets. We want this to be very close to the consensus in the forecast. We're going to be watching this very carefully. So don't forget, at 10 o'clock a.m., the data comes out, and that's going to cause a very, very big move. It could cause the market to do something unexpected and pump very hard, or it could cause the market to sink even lower. Right now, I think that when you look at the technicals, there's a good chance of the market attempting to bounce, but we're going to be watching key supports just for confirmation. And then when it comes to Tesla, we have this caveat that's going to be very important. Even though Tesla's overall deliveries for the quarter were not the best, they still maintained their 1.8 million vehicle delivery target, which is quite good for the year, which means that they're likely going to have a very strong Q4 where they're expecting it. We're going to be waiting to see if that ends up being the case, and Tesla ends up absolutely crushing it with the Cybertruck coming out. We'll see what happens with that, but for now, Tesla's still holding quite decently. So now we're going to be breaking this down very carefully. So on Tesla, we have an inverse head and shoulders pattern. If Tesla ends up breaking below this 248 support, we could be testing this 245 area. But even if we test 245, this inverse head and shoulders could still be valid. And if we need to bounce and eventually start pushing back up above 250, if that happens, we need to break 252.5 and then 254. If 254 breaks on Tesla, if we break out of that and start pushing, that's going to give us strong merits for this inverse head and shoulders. And Tesla could turn very bullish and push for 260 plus. Okay, that's the bullish case. All right, so you want to see Tesla basically, even if it does come down a little bit, you want to see it bounce, break above 252 and then 254. And that's going to be the bullish case for this thing. If you see that happen, guys, then this inverse head and shoulders should play out. However, the bears are going to argue that, hey, wait a minute, we have a head and shoulders on the 4-hour chart, right? We have this left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. If you're a big bear, okay, you want to see Tesla break below 245. If that breaks, 240 is going to be a key level. If Tesla breaks below 240, okay, that's going to be our major support. Then this head and shoulders could play out for Tesla. We could see Tesla start sinking towards, uh, did I say 4? I mean 230 is going to be the next level below that. So you're going to be watching 240. If that breaks on Tesla, you're going to be watching like 230, 226 and lower levels like that. But 240 is going to be key for this head and shoulders. So you're going to be watching that very, very carefully. All right. So 240 is the key level to be watching for if that ends up playing out. Right now, Tesla looks like it could drop a little bit lower. We're going to be watching this 248 level. If that breaks, we could get a little touch of this 245 level, but I believe that Tesla is going to react to the data. If the data launches Tesla upwards, you want to see it break above 252 and then 254. If the data causes Tesla to sink much lower, then you're going to be watching it potentially break below 240. Make sure you watch these levels very carefully. We'll see which way Tesla ends up going. As of right now, it looks like Tesla could drop a little bit more, but then we're going to be watching to see if it tries to base at this mid 240 level. And then we're going to be watching to see if buyers start to step in and if they start launching it in the upwards direction. Right now, it looks like we have an inverse head and shoulders that looks a little bit more valid, a little bit more probable of playing out. So there's a good chance it might bounce after the Jules drop openings, but no promises can be made until the data comes out. For SPY, we still technically have, this cup and handle like formation, but we are looking a little weaker. So if we break 424, if 424 breaks on SPY, we could see it come down to retest 422. If that ends up being the case, then we could be forming a double bottom if buyers step in. If we manage to hold above 422 and we don't actually test it, then buyers could still step in and launch this thing back up to 430. Now, I think that the data coming out in the morning is going to have a very big effect on it. So we're going to be watching to see if we get a bounce or not. If we get that bounce, we could see this thing trying to get back above 430. Going to be watching that very carefully at 10 o'clock a.m. So watch 424 as critical support. If that breaks, we could turn more bearish. If we bounce off of that and we start pushing, you want to break above 427.4. If we break 427.4, we could be pushing for 430. So watch those levels very, very carefully. On Apple, you're going to be watching 172 as support. If that breaks, you have 171. Now, we could drop a little bit more towards 172. And if that breaks, 171s could technically come, but then we might see a bounce intraday because we have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure that is still valid. T8 tells us that the market may drop then bounce on Apple. So we're going to be watching that after the JOLTS drop openings report comes out. For the QQQ, same thing is going on. We have a potential inverse head and shoulders. If we continue to drop, you want to be watching this thing based around 356 or so. If 358 fails us, 358 and 356 are levels to watch for. If we bounce off 356, we could see this thing push back above 360. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. If you want to turn bullish, you want to see it break above 363. If that breaks, 366 is a real possibility. My gut tells me that the inverse head and shoulders is still valid, so the QQQ may not drop that much. We might drop a little bit, then try to bounce after the JOLTS drop openings comes out. But just to be safe, watch for confirmation. Last but not least, for Nvda stock, I think this is going to be the last one I talk about, or one of the last ones I talk about. We're still on a very strong uptrend. We could retest 442. If that breaks, then 437 could come. If we hold 442, then we could see this thing bounce and start pushing back to like 460. My guts tells me it's going to hold 442 quite nicely, then try to bounce and start pushing after that. So watch that very carefully. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that the VIX, it is trying to pump a little bit at the time I am speaking. Let's see if this is showing on the 5 minutes. Let's just double check. It's actually not showing right now, but the VIX is up. And you can see it on the daily. But there is still technically a slanted head and shoulders on the VIX. Will the VIX keep pushing up to invalidate this head and shoulders, or will the VIX reject? If it starts rejecting and breaks below 17.64 or even 16.43, then this head and shoulders could be valid, and that could be a bullish signal for the markets. As of right now, it hasn't happened. The dollar is pumping, but we have a bearish divergence developing on it, which means the dollar may reject soon, which could be bullish for the markets. We're going to be waiting to see how this ends up affecting the markets, and we're just going to be patient nonetheless. All right. So hopefully these levels are going to be very helpful for you guys. And do not forget that at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, we have some big data coming out that's going to affect the markets. Watch it all very carefully, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.